At the end of the last video, I had determined that I was going to need to take the CRV to a shop to have the work done. The Honda CRV hub and knuckle are joined together. The entire knuckle and hub is going to have to come off. That hub does not bolt in, it's press in, press out, and it's a one-time use bearing. I started calling around to some of the auto repair shops that I know and trust, people I've used before or people that I have recommendations from. All of the trustworthy auto repair shops are backed up 2 to 4 weeks. Kind of called in a favor. One of the shops that I do a lot of business with, I finally got them on the phone. It's hard to get them on the phone because they stay so busy. But I did kind of request and call in a favor for them. Rather than take the car to them, if I took the entire steering spindle off myself and brought it to them, I was able to talk them into pressing out that hub, pressing out the bearing, replacing the stud, putting it all back together so I can put it back on the car. So that's what I've done, is I have gone through and I removed the knuckle, the entire steering spindle, that's called, from the car, and I took it down there. I'm on my way now to pick it up. I dropped it off at 8:30 this morning, and it is now 12 noon, and they have already got it done. The first thing is to disconnect the ABS sensor and get that out. That's I think that's a 10 millimeter bolt. Take that out. The next thing to do is disconnect the tie rod, and I want to say that was a 14 millimeter bolt. I'll have to check that to make sure. I'll put it on the screen what it was. I think that's a 14 millimeter, maybe 15, and it should be a castle nut. This one was interesting because it has a cotter pin that holds it in, but it's not a castle nut. So I'm going to look and see. That should have been a castle nut anyway. So you take that bolt off, and then there are different methods to get the tie rod out of that bracket once you get the nut off of it. The correct way is to use a tie rod clamp or a tie rod puller, which is what I used to kind of force that up. That way you don't damage the tie rod itself. The next thing, and you can really do these more or less in any order, the next thing to do is to loosen the spindle nut. Fortunately, I had borrowed a pretty heavy-duty Milwaukee impact driver. I didn't have anything strong enough to get that nut off of it. It's put on at the factory with 181 pound-feet of torque. So I made pretty quick work of it with the Milwaukee. So once you get that out, there are 3 bolts down at the bottom that hold the knuckle onto the lower control arm. It's 2 bolts and 1 nut. Yeah, they come through. So you have to take 2 nuts and 1 bolt out. Anyway, it's 3. They are all 19 millimeter. Those come out really easily. Then once those are out, up at the top you have 2 bolts going through that hold it to the strut up at the top. And that is it's a 19 millimeter head on the bolt and a 22 millimeter on the nut. So get those both out, and then you can take the entire spindle off. The knuckle, hub, bearing, the whole assembly comes right off. So that's what I've done. I took that guy out, and they have pressed the hub out of the knuckle, and then pressed the bearing out of the hub, replace the stud, because that's the whole reason for this was to get the stud replaced, and then pressed a new bearing into the hub, pressed the hub back into the knuckle, and that's what I'm going to pick up. And I should be able to get that all put back on the car within, it shouldn't take more than about an hour or so to get everything tightened back up, make sure I get everything torqued to spec. I've got a list of torque specs for each one of those bolts. They range from 30 pounds to 181 pounds. So should have it fixed. It's going to end up be a little under $200 to get this all said and done, but I'm basically getting it fixed in 24 hours. So that's worthwhile. This repair did take a little more effort than I anticipated, but I was able to get it taken care of, and the car is running perfectly. One final test drive to make sure everything is good on the CR-V. Looks like everything is fine. It runs great. I don't have any vibrations, no noises, no weirdness. It drives straight. It drives better than before I started working on it. The only thing that I do notice is that it looks like I messed up the ABS wheel sensor. So I am going to have to replace that as soon as I can find one. Apparently those are on back order or just hard to get. So I will be getting that wrapped up. But hey, I appreciate you guys watching and hanging out with me a little bit while I worked on the CR-V. Hopefully I'm going to get back to the Jeep project. I've had a few things that have knocked me off track lately, but hopefully get back to the Jeep restoration. But I do appreciate you watching this. If you enjoyed it or found it educational, entertaining, or if it helped you out, be sure and subscribe to the channel and check back for later videos. I'm always got something fun going on. I'm Brian. Thanks for watching the Daily Brew Garage, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.